So Johnny Depp says he's a sucker for love. Let's continue down here where the interview starts. So what were the initial dealings with what we call love? Johnny repeated the question that he was asked, trying to answer, and said in an interview with the Sunday Times.
By the way, I've had about 17 comebacks, apparently. I keep wondering about the word comeback because I didn't go anywhere. As a matter of fact, I live about 45 minutes away.
Clearly obtuse, he says. He continued, if you're a sucker like I am, sometimes you look into a person's eye and see some sadness, some lonely thing, and you feel you can help that person. He warned that helping someone can backfire. But no good deed goes unpunished, Depp said, adding that once you start helping someone, you slowly begin to understand the kind of discomfort and perturbance they were hiding in their eyes.
In a rare, intimate 4-hour interview with the Sunday Times, Johnny Depp has finally opened up about the aftermath of his highly publicized legal battle with Amber Heard, the Hollywood friends who abandoned him, and his perspective on what many are calling his comeback, though he sees it differently. Honestly, I didn't go anywhere, Depp remarked with his characteristic understated charm. If I had actually had the chance to split, I would have never come back. As Depp prepares to return to mainstream Hollywood with a major film alongside Penelope Cruz, he's addressing the questions that have followed him since the Virginia trial that vindicated him in the eyes of both the law and millions of supporters worldwide. His candor reveals a man who has weathered an unprecedented storm, but emerged with his dignity intact. I was a crash test dummy. In what might be the most quoted line from the interview, Depp reflected on his position at the beginning of the Number Me Too movement. I was a crash test dummy for Me Too. It was before Harvey Weinstein.
It manifested itself in other ways, he added, before noting, and the interesting thing is that it is merely a sliver of my life I've chosen to explore. But beyond his failed marriage, Johnny Depp expressed disappointment with people around him.
This statement, already being dissected across social media, speaks to how Depp's case became a lightning rod in the cultural conversation about power, gender, and accountability. While some critics are attempting to twist this quote to paint him as self-pitying, the full context reveals a man simply stating facts about the timeline of events. The Virginia jury's verdict, awarding him $15 million in damages after finding he was defamed, stands as the legal validation of his position. Despite this, Depp seems less interested in rehashing the trial details and more focused on explaining why he felt compelled to pursue the case in the first place. For those wondering why Depp would willingly subject himself to such public scrutiny, his answer is straightforward and powerful. I knew I'd have to semi-eviscerate myself, he explains with characteristic candor. Everyone was saying it'll go away, but I can't trust that. What will go away? The fiction pond around the globe? No, it won't. His voice rising with emotion, Depp continued, if I don't try to represent the truth, it will be like I'm actually committed the acts I'm accused of, and my kids will have to live with it.
My loyalty is the last thing anybody could question. I was with one agent for 30 years, but she spoke in court about how difficult I was. That's death by confetti. Fake mother effing will lie to you, yet keep the money.
They're kids. Kids that I've met in hospitals. This perspective illuminates what drove him to pursue justice despite the personal cost. It wasn't about revenge. It was about legacy and truth. The night before the trial in Virginia, I didn't feel nervous, he revealed. If you don't have to memorize lines, if you're just speaking the truth, roll the dice. Perhaps the most poignant moments in the interview come when Depp discusses the industry figures who abandoned him when he needed support most. Without naming specific individuals, his pain is palpable. I was with one agent for 30 years, but she spoke in court about how difficult I was, he says, describing it as death by confetti. Those fake individuals who lie to you, celebrate you, say all sorts of horror behind your back, yet keep the money. While his anguish is evident, Depp acknowledges that the trial revealed who his true friends were. I'll tell you what hurts. There are people, and I'm thinking of 3 who did me dirty. Those people were at my kids' parties, throwing them in the air. With characteristic understanding, he adds, I understand people who could not stand up for me because the most frightening thing to them was making the right choice.
He said he was betrayed by 3 individuals, all of whom he had were at my kids' parties, throwing them in the air. And look, I understand people who could not stand up for me.
Despite the clear verdict in Virginia, certain media outlets continue attempting to rewrite the narrative surrounding the trial. The Sunday Times interviewer himself falls into this trap, suggesting the social media fallout was bleak, mostly for hurt at the hands of Depp's passionate fans and some alleged bots. This characterization misses the fundamental reality. The fallout for Heard was a direct result of her testimony being systematically dismantled in court. The jury, who heard all evidence from both sides, determined that her claims were false and defamatory. It wasn't fans or bots that damaged her credibility, it was the evidence presented under oath. While some continue to reference the UK trial, legal experts point out the significant differences between that proceeding and the Virginia case. The US trial included far more evidence, featured Heard's direct testimony and cross-examination, and was decided by a jury rather than a single judge with questionable connections. The attempt to blur these distinct legal outcomes represents a concerning trend in media coverage, one that prioritizes preferred narratives over judicial findings. Despite widespread media claims of Depp being canceled, his career has steadily rebounded. Following the 2022 trial victory, he directed Modi, starred in the French film Jean du Barry, which opened the 2023 Cannes Film Festival, and is now preparing for his return to major studio projects. Yet Depp remains characteristically humble about his return to the spotlight, explaining that fame was never his motivation.
Because the most frightening thing to them was making the right choice. I was pre-Me Too. I was like a crash test dummy for Me Too. It was before Weinstein. While speaking to the publication, Depp also explained why they stopped staying silent about the legal battle.
Fame is the last thing I ever chased. If you look at the years that I've been doing this, it's pretty clear that I wasn't ever thinking, how could I be more famous? He describes fame as an occupational hazard and admits, to this day, I rarely go out. If friends invite me for Mexican, I say, dude, that's sweet of you, but I will just ruin your night. My presence will bring attention. After nearly 4 decades in the public eye, Depp confesses, I've had almost 40 years of fame, but I'm still not used to it, and I'm glad I'm not. What many failed to acknowledge during the height of the controversy was Depp's consistent pattern of behavior throughout his decades-long career. Before the allegations, he had never been accused of domestic violence by any previous partners. In fact, his ex-partners Vanessa Paradis, Winona Ryder, and Kate Moss all publicly supported him during the trial. This stands in stark contrast to Heard, whose former assistant made troubling claims about her behavior, and who had a previous arrest related to a domestic incident with a former partner, though charges were later dropped. The pattern of behavior argument, often cited in abuse cases, actually supported Depp's version of events rather than contradicting it. His 4 decades in the public eye had shown a consistent, if eccentric, personality without previous allegations of the kind Heard made. When asked what advice he gives his actress daughter Lily Rose, Depp's paternal wisdom shines through. Sometimes kids say to me, I want to be an actor, what's your advice? And I say, don't be. He shares with a smile. I know it's coming for them. I was chucked on that road, and the only advice I can give is don't allow anyone to make you something you are not. His counsel continues.
Look, if it had gone far enough, I knew I'd have to semi-eviscerate myself. Everyone was saying, it'll go away, but I can't trust that. What will go away? The fiction pond around the effing word? No, it won't. The actor added that if he didn't try to speak the truth now, the world would believe he was actually guilty of what he was accused of, and his kids would be the ones dealing with the fallout. He was referring to the 2 kids, Lily Rose and Jack.
They'll want you to be a poster boy, and it's tempting. A lot of money. If that's the direction you want, go for it, but don't let anybody choose for you. This philosophy explains Depp's eclectic career choices, always prioritizing artistic integrity over commercial appeal, a principle that has guided him through both triumph and adversity. Currently, Depp admits to living a somewhat reclusive existence. I can be isolated and happier than a clam. I don't get out much. I'm stuck with my thoughts, just thinking, writing, or watching weird stuff on YouTube. It can't be healthy. Despite his attempts at anonymity, I've tried hats, or I can grow a beard. Depp finds it impossible to escape recognition. There's never any way to hide, and I just feel uncomfortable causing this weird form of attention. I do, because I'm really shy. This shyness might surprise fans who know only his larger-than-life characters, but those who've spent time with the actor confirm his gentle, thoughtful nature off-screen. What became clear during the trial was that Depp and Heard's relationship was undeniably toxic. Depp admitted to substance abuse issues and angry outbursts, though notably the evidence presented didn't support claims that he physically abused Heard. Audio recordings played in court revealed troubling interactions, with Heard admitting to hitting Depp and mocking the idea that anyone would believe he was a victim.
Because first of all, like, they really did nice pictures here. Johnny Depp at 62 looks like $1,000,000 compared to me that I'm 49 and I look like already I'm eligible for pension. So very nice photo shoot. And it's interesting that he finally spoke about this, because the first thing comes to mind is that Johnny's an empath, right? He's an empath, and like many empaths, unfortunately, they actually like fertile terrain.
Mental health experts who testified suggested Heard displayed traits consistent with certain personality disorders, potentially explaining the volatile dynamic between them. What many observers noted was how Depp took accountability for his problems during his testimony, while Heard seemed unable to acknowledge any wrongdoing on her part. This disparity in accountability represents a crucial element often overlooked in discussions about the case. Rehabilitation and healing require acknowledgement of one's own contributions to a dysfunctional relationship, something Depp demonstrated but Heard has thus far resisted. Depp's case has become a watershed moment in how we discuss domestic abuse allegations, particularly when men claim to be victims. His willingness to fight back against what he saw as false allegations has inspired others to seek justice rather than remaining silent. The trial also highlighted concerns about how quickly public opinion can form without full access to evidence. Many who initially condemned Depp changed their position after watching the trial testimony, a reminder that rush judgments rarely serve justice. For male victims of domestic abuse, the case has provided a platform for discussing experiences that are often dismissed or minimized. Organizations supporting male abuse survivors reported increased calls following the trial, suggesting Depp's public stand encouraged others to seek help. Depp's experience has drawn comparisons to other high-profile cases where accusations in the court of public opinion seem to precede due process. As we've seen with recent controversies involving figures like Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, or previously with Meghan Markle's claims, there's a growing recognition that jumping to conclusions without examining evidence can lead to serious injustice.
To attract that type of sociopathic, narcissistic traits, or, you know, pathological narcissist, which they will just destroy your life. A person empath like this thinks, okay, you know, I might be able to pour so much love into you that I can fix you, but then you just end up empty, and then it will take time and time just to heal yourself from that.
What sets Depp's case apart is that it actually went to trial, allowing evidence to be presented, testimony to be cross-examined, and a verdict to be rendered by impartial jurors. This stands in contrast to many celebrity disputes that remain in the realm of public relations battles rather than legal adjudication. The result was a clear vindication that many media outlets seem reluctant to acknowledge. Despite the jury's unambiguous finding that Depp was defamed, some publications continue to frame the outcome in ways that minimize his legal victory or suggest the truth remains uncertain. Throughout his ordeal, Depp's fans remained steadfastly loyal, something he acknowledges with genuine gratitude. Unlike the Hollywood insiders who abandoned him, everyday people around the world analyzed the evidence, watched the trial proceedings, and refused to allow a rush to judgment to override the facts. This grassroots support sustained Depp during his darkest moments and demonstrated that authentic connections with audiences can withstand even the most coordinated PR attacks. His fan base grew during the trial as people who had previously been neutral watched the proceedings and formed their own conclusions based on evidence rather than headlines. "I'm not your dragon," a phrase that gained popularity among Depp supporters, encapsulates his refusal to be villainized based on unproven allegations. It's become something of an anthem for those who believe in due process and the importance of evidence over accusations. As Johnny Depp prepares to step back into the spotlight with his upcoming film, his journey represents something larger than just one actor's career resurgence. It speaks to fundamental questions about truth, justice, and the possibility of redemption in an era of instant judgment. His story reminds reminds us that behind the headlines and social media storms are real human beings with families, feelings, and futures at stake. For Depp, moving forward means focusing on what matters most: his children, his art, and living with integrity. As weird as I am, he reflects, certain things can be trusted, and my loyalty is the last thing anybody could question. In a world increasingly defined by cancel culture and snap judgments, Johnny Depp's vindication and gradual return to prominence offers a powerful counter-narrative, one where patience, persistence, and faith in the truth ultimately prevail. The final chapter of this Hollywood saga is still being written, but one thing is clear: Johnny Depp is not just coming back, he never really left. And for millions of fans worldwide who stood by him through the darkest days, that's something worth celebrating.